One of the biggest things you can do to really help yourself when you are opening up to your intuition is to stay open, like have an open mind, because it's incredible how quickly the ego and the self wants to jump in and start naming and labeling everything. But the more we stay open, the more we actually open to the true nature of reality, which is way more cosmic and incredible and weird than our brains can cope with. So an example of this is, I've been studying in a Buddhist context, and when I would meditate or get concentrated, I would have this presence come down or kind of come in, and I'd say, oh, what is this? Is this White Tara? Is this Yesho Shogul? Or, trying to nail it down, like what this, who this figure was. Other times it was really obvious in terms of being a Dakini or whatever. But this presence would just repeatedly say, Great Mother, Great Mother, Great Mother. And then the other feedback I'd get in was you see me in many different forms, and I think being within that context, I kind of wanted, I had contact with figures within that realm, but other figures were coming up, Hindu figures, pagan figures, Christian figures. I was seeing all sorts, and it wasn't just this one wisdom perspective, basically. And yet, I remember wanting to nail it down and label it. And particularly in the early days, I was really obsessed with knowing the names of my guides. What's your name? And really it was coming from a place that I could be like, oh, I've got this guide, Jimmy, who blah, 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 or whatever. And some of it was about connection, but actually my guides would just roll their eyes. They were just like, it's not relevant. It's just not, you don't need that. Just listen to us. We're bringing you information. Like, you're focusing on the wrong thing. So I find that, it happened. Another example of just staying open is that within my own practice, things get revealed to me more and more. And I think if I just get obsessed with the labeling of something, that actually I would just stay within one box in terms of the experiences I have, when my mind can grasp one concept, it almost is able to then open to the next one and then the next one. So an example is, I remember I'm probably an incredible cynic when it comes to being an intuitive. I'm not I'm not like jumping at every kind of out there theory at all. Mostly I'm like, okay, interesting, not really my jam, go for it if you're into it. But an example of this is, Linda Backman, who does past life regression therapy. She's a very interesting podcast, check her out. And she mentions interplanetary souls and earth-based souls. And again, it was one of those moments where my brain was like, what? Like, other planets? And my friend had told me that once she'd had this crystal healing and she was told she was an old soul, but she was from other planets. And again, my brain was like, not sure. Okay, but you're sane, and that can just sit there. It's not in my experience, so I don't know. But then I had a client, and immediately I was just getting, interplanetary soul, and then I started seeing trauma and conflicts from other world systems and other species and beings. And for me, the litmus test is having an experience of it, actually experiencing and seeing that for myself. And then I'm like, okay, we'll go with it. Like, I'll feed that back, and often, somebody can't remember those things, but what is usually happening is in their field, there's I can see in them, there's this electricity going through them of a registering from the soul of a level of truth that is being presented back to them. That they're saying, I don't know how, but there's something deeply true in what you're telling me, whether that's wounding from another life or, deep samskara, this sort of thing. So deep patterning behavior. And another example, I was going into a meditation and just taking myself into like a self-hypnosis to work on some self-healing. And the door opened in a minute, immediately my guides just flooded in, and I was like, okay, well, that wasn't the plan. Sure, we'll go with this. What are we doing? And I just sort of started seeing myself reverse, turning back into a baby, turning back into a light, and then turning into a fairy. Or I could see myself with wings. And I was like, okay. And just watched, a moment, my death moment within that life. And the agreement that I had out of that moment, that of I don't want to say trauma, but that moment of difficulty. And then suddenly I just saw a flood of all these fairy beings around me going, oh, we want to help you heal, because you're talking about us, you're telling people about us, and we want to support your work. And then I could just feel all this spontaneous healing happening down my body. And if you had told me that 5 years ago, I would have said, yeah, that's nuts. Whereas it just happened, it just occurred, But I think part of the reason that could happen was just because I keep an open mind. I basically, I'm a lot of the time just going, okay, when an experience comes in, and I don't close down to it because it's not within my context, or when I say that, kind of maybe my religious view, my religious view of things. Because I think actually, as much as our spirituality can try to connect us to something greater within ourselves and beyond ourselves, it comes from a human context and human construct, and we're just so much bigger than that. And that there's various beings in the world on a subtle level that are here to help us, and that we would have encountered in different lifetimes as well. So another one of those for me is I often see Egyptian figures, and it's because I've had Egyptian lives and I've already got a natural connection to those figures, so they come through for me very easily. Whereas for someone else, that might not have any meaning to them because they don't already have a connection. So yeah, staying open, and for me, I literally, in my sessions with clients, I'm just asking all the time when I'm sensing and feeling and seeing, what is this? What is this? What is this? I'm just asking, what is it? I'm not trying to nail it down and go, oh, this is definitely what this is. I ask, and I get more and more of a sense of, okay, this feels emotional, this feels ancestral, this feels, and it's always having, being more and more aware of the feeling tone of something. But I'm always just asking, what is it? And then I'm checking in with my clients and saying, okay, this is my read on it. Does this make sense to you? Even if it's something, out there, it's whether it's registering for them as a truth. So yeah, really asking that question when you start to sense something, what is it? And just, instead of going straight in and going, oh, this must be X, this must be Y, just ask, what is it? Stay open.